afternoon and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. My name is Hugh McKay and I'm Vice President of the Board of Directors of the City Club. And I'm very pleased to introduce today's speaker, Ricky D. Smith, Director of the Department of Port Control for the City of Cleveland. Ricky Smith joined the Jackson administration in June 2006 to oversee the management and operation of Cleveland Hopkins International Airport and Burke Lakefront Airport, as well as the Division of Harbors. The strength and the status of Cleveland's airport is a fundamental issue in the larger discussion of Cleveland's plans and prospects for the future. Thus, Mr. Smith finds himself in a very important position at the table as the region's future is discussed. The merger of Continental Airlines and United Airlines has created much uncertainty. Shortly after that merger, it was announced that the number of Continental flights through Cleveland could possibly drop by more than a half. While the airport has held its own so far, many questions remain as to what this merger will mean for all of us in the region. Many challenges and opportunities face the airport as well as the region, and each will depend on the other to prosper as we move forward. There's much upside potential, such as Aerotropolis, centering around Hopkins as a magnet for development. And this past week, Mayor Jackson laid out a $1.6 billion master plan for the remaking of the airport. Mr. Smith will no doubt be filling us in on these exciting developments. Before moving to Cleveland, Mr. Smith was the Senior Deputy Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer for the Maryland Aviation Administration, working out of the Baltimore-Washington International, Thurgood Marshall Airport, and Martin State Airport. Mr. Smith obtained his bachelor's degree in business administration from Howard University in Washington, D.C., and his master's degree in business administration from Loyola College in Maryland's Executive Master's Program. On behalf of the City Club of Cleveland, I'm pleased to present Ricky D. Smith, Director of the Department of Port Control for the City of Cleveland. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Hugh. Good afternoon. Come on, good afternoon. You know, I'm honored to speak here at the City Club. I think this is my second time speaking, and I recognize the honor that comes with speaking here. I have a 6-year-old daughter who occasionally, when she walks in the room and I'm watching television, I'm watching something on I'm watching one of the City Club speakers. She complains because it's a bunch of people speaking that she doesn't want to hear. So when she heard I was speaking at the City Club, she said, "Dad, isn't that the place where people speak that I don't want to hear?" So I recognize the honor associated with speaking at the City Club. But I have to thank our mayor, Mayor Jackson. I think if you were to go back to the opening remarks he made when he introduced me as the airport director, all the stuff that we're doing with the airport system goes back to the charge, the vision that he set out during that speech. We have not deviated from that one bit. We're still doing the best we can to try to meet those goals. And so he deserves great credit, and I appreciate the opportunity to be in this role. We are great partners with City Council. Kevin Kelly, Councilman Kevin Kelly is here. Kevin started out as just a colleague as chairman of Aviation and Transportation, and he was instrumental in laying the groundwork for all the stuff that we're doing now. And over a period of time, that relationship evolved from that of a colleague to a great friend. And so I'm always happy to recognize Kevin as a friend. And a number of key stakeholders. Joe Roman sitting there. There's not a greater stakeholder other than our hub carrier, perhaps, and some other airlines, and well, our tenants, and well, maybe there are a lot of other stakeholders more important than the Greater Cleveland Partnership, but the Greater Cleveland Partnership is an important stakeholder, and Joe Roman and Bill Christopher and their team have been critical in terms of helping us navigate through these challenging times, and we certainly look forward to continuing to work with them. I can't go back home or to the airport. Sometimes I feel like I live at the airport without acknowledging and recognizing the great team that works at the airport. The most important success that I've been able to bring to this airport system is the management team that we have. And so at the risk of screwing up their names, I'm going to ask them to stand up real quick and at least so you can see who they are. So if you have any tough questions, you can hold those tough questions, and then after the speech, you can ask these people to answer those questions. And then the consultants. One thing airports are chock full of, and that is consultants. And there are several consultants that were key to getting off the ground what we'll talk about today, at least what I'll speak to today. I believe Landry & Brown is represented here. They are the architects of both the Hopkins Master Plan as well as the Burke Master Plan. And then not represented here is a consultant firm, Jacobson, Daniels, and Associates. They are the architect of our strategic plan. So I do want to thank all of you for being here. Your interest in what I think is one of the most important institutions in the region is truly appreciated. Just as a quick overview of the airport system, I think I'm supposed to operate this at the same time. Of the airport system, it is owned and operated by the City of Cleveland through the Department of Port Control, which I am director. The Department of Port Control has two primary responsibilities. One is responsibility for managing and developing all of its lakefront property. There was a significant announcement this morning related to all of that, but that's not the topic of this discussion. The other responsibility is that of operating the Cleveland Airport system, which has both Cleveland Hopkins International Airport and Burke Lakefront Airport. It is important to note that the airport system receives primarily all of its funding from federal government airport revenues, as well as private investment. There are no municipal, state, or county funds used to support the development of the airport. Hopkins is the 34th largest, busiest airport in the country out of well over 200 airports, and so it is a significant airport. Burke Lakefront Airport is one of the largest general aviation airports in the state. Everything we do in Department of Port Control, or in this, with respect to this presentation, the Cleveland Airport system, is driven by our strategic plan. There is absolutely nothing that we do, that we focus on, that we engage resources, unless it is linked to our strategic plan. We are fortunate to have a new strategic plan, but before getting to that, we are actually declaring victory on our previous strategic plan, Destination Cleveland Airports, and an outgrowth of that strategic plan was a number of successes. Some of those were mentioned in the video earlier. There are others that you may be aware of because you've visited the airport. But the combination of all of those successes led us to become the most improved airport in North America. That's out of over 240 airports in North America. Knowing how much we had to travel, that is a significant feat, and again, it's all attributed to the focus of our strategic plan. The new strategic plan, taking flight, is another 4-year strategic plan, and it is supported by 6 significant goals around safety and security, customer and stakeholder relations, efficiency and accountability, engaging in sound business practices, employee focus. We always focus on what's important to our employees. And then a new one that is not represented in our previous strategic plan, that is environmental stewardship. These goals are supported by 76 strategic objectives. And so we're going to be pretty busy over the next 4 years. And our growth of that strategic plan is, from a capital development standpoint, are 2 master plans, the CLE master plan and then the Burke master plan. I'll focus on the CLE master plan for a few minutes. Mayor Jackson announced yesterday that the city had completed a new master plan for Cleveland Hopkins International Airport. That plan represents, again, from a capital development standpoint, represents the future of air service in this region. It is a 20-year plan. Now, I will add an asterisk to the 20-year plan because those of you that know me, particularly people that work with me, I don't have the patience to do anything over 20 years. So although the FAA tends to, request these plans in 20-year increments, so it is a 20-year plan, what you'll find is there will be significant movement and efforts underway to complete this plan over the next 5 to 10 years. It is a demand-driven plan, meaning we will not build white elephants. We won't engage in highly speculative development. There's significant demand for the kinds of services that are reflected in this plan already. And with some help from the private sector, we think that we can engage in this plan and bring it to fruition well in advance. Just a snapshot of what CLE is today. It is an airport that has a very strong market base. Over 70%, almost 75% of the passengers that fly in and out of that airport are Cleveland metropolitan area residents. And so that's one of the strongest in the industry. Atlanta, for example, which has about 90 million passengers a year, has about a 30% O&D percentage. Okay, so it is a very strong local base here. We have, as I alluded to earlier, very active support from our key stakeholders, including our carriers and the business community. And we have one of the most efficient airfields in the industry. The on-time percentage of our carriers, because of the airfield, is top in the industry. Still, there are some challenges that we have to overcome. There are some constraints, and one is it is also a very old facility. It is an aging facility. And so this master plan will go a long way in terms of addressing those issues. Insufficient cargo, as well as an over-reliance on airline revenues, are other challenges that we have to overcome. So this master plan is aimed, the new master plan is aimed at addressing those issues and transforming Cleveland Hopkins to a best-in-class transportation facility. So to that end, what we will do is we will modernize many of the airport facilities, including the terminal building, our parking facilities, and a number of other ancillary facilities that the airlines and our other tenants rely on. And we'll do that in a way that introduces customer-friendly features. We will develop additional capacity for our airlines. Again, there's already considerable demand for space at the airport on the part of our carriers, not just Continental, but other service providers at the airport, and we will develop additional capacity for that. One of the most important developments that can come out of Cleveland Hopkins' future is the development of cargo infrastructure. This community bleeds cargo and freight movement to neighboring communities, neighboring states, like no other community in this country. And to the extent that we can begin to channel that freight movement, that cargo movement, back out of Hopkins, it will go a long way in one, developing jobs and investment for the community, but it also supports additional passenger service. Flights are more profitable if they can put freight in the belly of the aircraft. It's additional revenue for those particular flights. And then again, we have to continue to implement efficiencies for the airfield. We are, for the most part, declaring victory on the airfield. The last master plan made great progress in terms of introducing a new runway, extending one of our existing runways. And so for the most part, the airfield work is done. This master plan will focus primarily on the terminal, the land side, and other cargo and airline maintenance features on the airfield. This master plan is also demand-driven, as I mentioned earlier. We will look at every project under the guise of the return on investment that we get from that particular project, and we will also look at those projects' ability to introduce new alternative sources, energy sources, to the airport. The CLE of tomorrow will be a greater hub for regional economic development in this community. Some of the highlights of the master plan in a little more detail. I won't go through the entire list, but I will pull some of those out. Again, we've declared victory on the airfield, so won't go into that too much. However, it is important to note that later this summer, we will break ground on a new air traffic control tower. It will be a 300-plus feet tower. It will be one of the tallest towers in the world, outside the country at least. It is a long-awaited tower. The amount of work we had to put into getting the FAA to agree to develop this new tower at the airport is just a testament to how our management team has been able to establish credibility. We will engage in a great deal of terminal modernization. It's an old facility, it looks old, and we need to make investment to modernize it. And so we're in the design process now for developing a new face for the terminal, including a new facade, as well as redoing the ticketing and the baggage claim lobby areas to add a more vibrant and, again, a more modern look to the terminal as well. From a customer service standpoint, we're also looking at introducing a ground transportation center. One of the most important or underutilized features of the airport is that we have RTA service linked right into the terminal. This ground transportation will allow us to capitalize on that link into the airport and to also consolidate the many other modes of transportation that are critical to getting passengers to and from the airport system. And we will start on that project in short fashion as well. The roadway system that currently supports the airport is dated, and so we will reconfigure the roadway system 237 and both the primary and secondary entrance to the airport campus to allow for better feed and more safety features, because in both cases it's almost challenging. It's very challenging to get into the airport when you have to merge across 2 or 3 lanes. Again, all of these projects will have green initiatives, and we will take every step to make sure that it remains a hub for regional development. Airports these days, one lesson we learned over the last couple of years with this economic downturn is that airports will survive to the extent that we can introduce revenue streams that are not dependent on airline or passenger activity. And so we will develop the land and the capacity to introduce new revenue sources that will bring to the airport system a revenue stream regardless of what happens in the industry. The hotel office complex that I'll illustrate in a few minutes is just one of those opportunities. There's enormous demand for federal office space on airport that we simply are not able to meet today. We have a hotel that needs to be right-sized. It's in the wrong place. It is a very old facility. The rooms are not properly sized. It is probably easier to use the Marriott Hotel than it is to use the Sheraton Hotel on airport. They both have shuttle service. And then again, there'll be a host of on-airport commercial development to introduce non-airline dependent revenue sources. I'll go through this one pretty quickly. In essence, the yellow colored space is excess pavement. The improvements we made to the airfield over the years has created a number of spots, or hot spots as we call them. These are areas where airlines are challenged every day to operate in a safe manner. This is pavement that will be removed over the next few years. The FAA will fund the replacement of this pavement, and that will add considerably more safe operations at the airport. Although we're a very safe airport today, we're always looking for opportunities to improve safety. At the northern end of the chart, across the top, that you see our crosswind runway. That's 10-8. We have a live project today. As a matter of fact, we gave the media a tour of the site yesterday, where we are shifting that runway 320 feet, and we are adding on both ends of that runway. This is the runway going across the top of the screen. To both ends of that runway, a feature that's called Engineered Material Arresting System, or EMAS for short. In essence, this is a technology that allows an aircraft that has an overrun or an undershoot to come to a soft stop, if you will. Today, if that were to happen, and we haven't had that experience, you would probably end up on a roadway or some other, not so desired landing. And so this is a very important feature to the airport, and again, it allows us to introduce safety features that we currently do not have. These are some illustrations of what the airport may look like in the future as we begin to move on some of the improvements to the airport. This project here, again, is to change the face of the airport, to replace the skin with a different, to give it a different look, and to create, again, a more modern and innovative appearance to the airport. This project also will include the construction of solar panels on the roof of the airport terminal. The goal there is to power the ticketing lobby and the baggage claim area, in essence, the front of the airport, with solar power. This is an illustration of what the ticketing lobby and the baggage claim area will look like. Again, it creates a brighter and a more vibrant appearance to the airport. Again, trying to bring a more modern feel to the airport itself. And this will be both the ticketing lobby and the baggage claim area. I spoke earlier about the ground transportation center. In the center of the picture, there's an octagon-shaped building. That will be the new ground transportation center at the airport. To its left is the parking garage, and I'll talk a little bit more about the parking program a little later. But again, the ground transportation center is designed or aimed to capitalize on the features we get from the RTA service. The parking program is a program that we're currently working with City Council to launch. The long-term garage has outlived its useful life. Okay, it's a 40-plus-year-old garage that was built to be there for 10 years. And so we got 30 extra years out of the garage, and it is now not a very safe facility to be in without heavy maintenance activity to keep it going. So we're going to tear down the long-term garage. We plan to start that sometime this year. In its place, we will develop covered surface parking facilities until we start working on the long-term expansion of the parking garage, which will add several thousand more spaces to the parking facility. A key feature to the new parking program is the introduction of the smart parking or the parking guidance system. Today, if you were to travel or use one of our garages, or most garages for that matter, if the garage is nearly full, you can drive around for 15, 20, 30 minutes trying to find a parking space, because they're not very easy to find when they're scattered all over the place. This technology, the smart parking technology, will have signs that let you know as soon as you pull up to the garage, it'll tell you how many spaces are vacant on each floor. And then once you decide which floor you're going to park on, there's another system inside that tells you how many spaces are vacant on each row. And once you decide to go down a row, there's a red light, green light system that signals which spaces are vacant. Okay. That allows you to find a parking space without wasting a lot of time. What it does for the airport is where in the past we would typically close a garage when it's about 80 to 85% full because it's difficult to find the spaces. We can now keep that garage open when it's 100% full because it's easier for the customer to find the spaces. What you also see in this illustration is the blue lines across the top on the top of the garage. Garage structures, the top floors are never covered. You build floors forever if you try to cover the top of the garage. What we plan to do is to introduce a covered system that is, in essence, a series of solar panels. Our goal is to use solar panels to power the garage, the new garage system. This is a more mature version of the terminal area development. The facility right across from the terminal will be built on top of the ground transportation center. That is the new hotel, office, retail complex that will be constructed, again, to accommodate demand for office space with our federal partners and some of our consultants. Some of them, I hope, are in the room, as well as right-sizing the hotel. And you can see this garage is slightly bigger than the old garage because this also reflects our plans to expand the garage. What's not illustrated very well in this photo is also a reconfiguration of the roadway system. that supports the terminal as well. During certain periods of time, the roadway system is very congested, and so we will also engage a project to expand the roadway system in front of the terminal. You'll notice the introduction of 2 additional skywalks, or walkways, if you will. Another safety goal is to remove pedestrian traffic from the roadway system, and so you could only get from the garage to the terminal or the office hotel complex by using one of the skywalks. Moving to the south campus of the airport, there are 3 important developments related to the south campus of the airport, of the airfield, and one is the introduction of a cargo complex, an aircraft maintenance complex, as well as corporate aviation. With respect to cargo, I spoke about that earlier. Today we have considerable trucking capacity, but we do not have the capacity or the facilities to support air carrier cargo needs. And so we will develop new facilities, cargo facilities. We'll work with the private sector to accomplish this, to offer more cargo capacity at the airport. This rendering shows or illustrates what the new cargo complex will look like. Again, it offers both access from the aircraft standpoint, and then on the right side of that facility, you see capacity for trucks to come in and carry the cargo out. To meet our airline maintenance needs, Continental Airlines aircraft maintenance facility here is their most efficient aircraft maintenance facility in their system. It is a highly efficient system. They just added, I think, a 50,000 square foot facility to their maintenance facility. And as their regional jets continue to grow, because they are planning to introduce larger regional aircraft to the hub, there will be a need for additional aircraft maintenance facilities as well. And so working with them, we'll develop the facilities that they need for additional aircraft maintenance. There's also a need for additional aircraft maintenance facilities for general aviation service. We have a major tenant. If you drive to the airport, you can't miss them, Constant Aviation. Constant Aviation does aircraft maintenance for corporate and general aviation aircraft. Demand is extremely high for them. They cannot accommodate. They're turning back work because they do not have the room currently at Cleveland Hopkins to handle the demand for services that they offer. To accommodate them temporarily, we have an agreement with them where they've now bifurcated their operations. They're now doing commercial aircraft maintenance at Hopkins. That's giving them a little time, but they still need additional space just to handle their commercial aircraft maintenance. And they're now handling their general aviation or corporate aircraft maintenance out of Aviation High School at Berkeley Lakefront Airport. And we're negotiating with them now to develop a facility for them at Berkeley Lakefront Airport to handle their needs. And then the corporate aviation hangar, we have a number of large, significant corporates that operate out of Cleveland Hopkins, primarily because they need the reliability that comes with the airport, the all-weather condition reliability. And many of the users of their aircraft fly out on their private aircraft, and then they fly back in with one of the commercial carriers, and so they need to maintain their existence at Hopkins. However, their facilities too are aged and have outgrown their current needs, and so we will work with them to develop additional facilities as they've indicated. Now, all of these needs that we're addressing, these are not needs that the airport has come up with. You know, this master planning process is a product of a 1.5 year long series of stakeholder sessions, meeting with key airport users. And so the feedback we're getting for additional demand and need for additional capacity is coming from individuals who know that better than we do. And then I talked earlier about the United Airlines maintenance complex, and we will certainly work with them to meet their needs. Well, what is this going to cost? as we look at the investment allocation for this project, it's basically 4 basic areas. It's about about $500 million in the terminal, investment in the terminal, another $300 million in the airfield, $500 million in the south and the west campus. I didn't talk about the west campus too much because that's not as sexy as some of the other stuff we're doing. That's primarily new facilities to consolidate our airport maintenance facilities. Ren Camacho, our chief of planning and engineering, is building a Taj Mahal for his office staff. And then we're also building a state-of-the-art training facility for our employees to, again, to enhance their ability to use the airfield. That portion of the project is about $500 million, and then the ground transportation, hotel, office, and other commercial development is about $303 million. This will all be paid for primarily from 3 sources. The federal government is going to put up around $717 million, at least that amount, and that's about 44% of the total estimated project cost. The airport itself will put up another $470 million that will come through airport revenues and bond issuances. We have not done a bond issuance since I've been here because we're already burdened with about $800 million in debt. And so what we're trying to do is to not grow that debt on our balance sheet. And so we will be very prudent in terms of how we finance airport projects. And then private investment to the tune of about $465 million rounds up the project funding sources for this project. That's the plan going forward for Hopkins. The one piece I didn't mention with one of the charts is the plan to extend Concourse C to the north and connect it to Concourse D, to create a connector between Concourse D and Concourse C, one, driven by the growth of the hub, but also to respond to all of those not so polite, angry, rude passengers that have been begging over the years for a more efficient access to Concourse D. I've heard the story many times where you can look outside of Concourse D and you can see your car in the parking garage, but you have to walk several miles to get to it. And so our goal is to address that. As we transition to Burke Lakefront Airport, the mayor announced a new master plan for Burke Lakefront Airport about a year and a half ago that would, revolutionize the airport and address many of the needs that the public presented to us related to that airport. His position announced at that time was that the airport would remain open. Burke is a critical part of the Cleveland airport system. We close that airport and you probably accelerate the need for a new runway at Cleveland Hopkins by about 10 years, which means today we'd have to start planning for a new runway at Hopkins, and that's at least $1 billion project. And that cost will be borne partly by the FAA, which would have to approve a new runway, which isn't something they're doing a lot of these days, and our carriers, which would add more cost to their operations. And so the idea of closing Burke is more than a notion. But the mayor announced a program, a plan that would grow aviation activity at Burke, but at the same time introduce mixed-use development around the airport. The idea that Burke is disconnected from the idea of developing the lakefront is an idea of the past. It is critical to the lakefront development, and what you'll see going forward are plans to make sure that Burke is connected to the lakefront development. I happen to have responsibility for both, and so that ability to plan Burke into the lakefront development is not that very complicated. Like Hopkins, Burke has its challenges. Just as the industry, the commercial industry is very dynamic, so is the general aviation industry. It continues to evolve. The regional jets are getting larger. And the use of very light jets continues to grow and grow. And I've had some dip because of the recession, but that will come back. And Burke will have to deal with those issues. An on-call customs facility is not a positive feature for private aircraft operators who are trying to come in, do business quickly, and then get out. And then changes in the condition of regional or general aviation airports throughout Northeast Ohio calls to question what role should Burke play as a general aviation airport throughout the region. Again, we maintain that Burke's future is vital to the lakefront. So where are we going with Burke? One, the plan is to to construct a new parallel runway. Burke is a 2-runway airport today, but the southernmost runway, the 6 right, 2 4 left runway, actually gets in the way of critical development that is needed along the southern end of the airport. The goal to develop additional hangars and other mixed-use development is constrained by the fact that we have flight restrictions and air restrictions because of the proximity of the runway. So the plan is to build another runway over the CDF, the area where the CDFs are, and then make the land on the south of Burke available for the development of additional hangars and other revenue-generating opportunities. We'll also develop new revenue-generating opportunities at Burke, a new maintenance facility for aircraft there, and we're also looking to develop a new executive terminal for Burke Lakefront Airport as well. This picture here should give you an idea of what we plan to do to truly make Burke a happy marriage between general aviation and mixed-use development. This is actually a picture, a rendering from the planning firm that is doing the lakefront development plan for Burke Lakefront Airport and North Coast Harbor. What you see here is a corporate park similar to the Google Park that you may be familiar with. Our plan is to take the area that is, let me see, that would be the southwest portion of Burke Lakefront Airport that currently consists of parking lots and grass, and to convert that whole area to a new corporate park. Again, that would have both corporates and some residential living. You see the nice blue river there would actually be a man-made river, as if a man-made pond, if you will. Again, we're trying to create an environment where Burke truly coexists with the rest of the lakefront, and it allows more vibrancy down in the area. On the other side of this corporate park, currently where hornblowers exist, or used to exist, we are going to expand that to a corporate barge, if you will, where we will have an expanded barge, and there will be several barge offices, if you will, or office barges, if you will. What we've learned through this master planning process is companies like Lean Dog that is currently there, they seek these innovative, these odd environments where they can be creative and open, and they can work around the clock. And the idea that they can work on a barge on the lake is something that is very inviting to them. And so our plan is to expand that barge to allow for additional corporate office space at Burke Lakefront Airport. We continue our negotiations with Constant Aviation to develop a new facility for them at Burke Lakefront Airport, the new executive terminal. We're working with Landmark Aviation. Landmark Aviation is the major fixed base operator. They're proposing to us an expansion program as well, which may include the executive terminal. And we're also engaged in efforts to address runway safety area issues with our 6 left, 2 4 right runway, and we're engaged in some early planning efforts around relocating our 6 right, 2 4 left runway to create more development space on the southern end. Like Hopkins, this program is funded heavily by the Federal Aviation Administration. The airport will make an investment as well to the tune of about $18 million, and then we will rely on private development. And this is at least $28 million as we continue to flesh out the mixed-use development aspect of Burke's future. We will certainly try to attract more private investment as well. Okay. So this is the future of the Cleveland airport system. This is our blueprint, and we think that combined Cleveland Hopkins and Burke Lakefront Airport will become just a stronger economic engine for the region, will become facilities that all of the community can be proud of. These will be world-class facilities, and you know, I know we tend to plan a lot. You know, we're not big on planning. I'm about doing, and what we've showed you here is just part of a stage where we have to go through, where we think through the processes and think through the plans that we have to implement. But we thrive most in executing, and we will make Burke a model airport where mixed-use development and general aviation comes together. If I have anything to do with it, because I have to answer to this guy called Frank Jackson, we will make it happen, and Cleveland Hopkins will become a premier airport, commercial airport, not just in the city, not just the region or the nation, but worldwide. Again, thank you for showing your interest in this subject. We really appreciate the time, and I look forward to having future discussions with you.
Now we would like to return to our speaker for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions from all of you, including guests. Holding the microphones today is City Club Program Director Carrie Miller and Membership Marketing Director Heather Sikora. First question, please.
You touched on, you touched on how you're making the airports more environmentally friendly. You mentioned the solar panels on the roof at Hopkins. Can you expand a little bit more on that, both at Hopkins and at Burke, please?
I will do my best. The first thing we've done is we've established, because there are people that are much smarter than I am in this area, we've established an internal alternative energy sources committee. And this group is charged with looking at everything we do at the airport, all of our facilities, and coming up with strategies for implementing the use of alternative energy sources throughout the airport. If you were to look at our Part 150 study, which is the study that's done on a regular basis to reduce the impact of noise on surrounding communities, you would see that we're engaged in efforts with our airline carriers to introduce and maintain quieter aircraft, to engage in operating procedures that reduce the amount of energy that they expend while operating at the airport. And so some of these are operational measures. We're also doing simple things like installing lighting systems throughout the airport where lights aren't on in areas of the terminal that aren't populated. Again, trying to reduce the use of alternative energies, of energy at the airport.
Ricky.
How you doing, Mr. Pogue? I call you Mr. Pogue.
In light of the terrible congestion over the 3 New York airports and O'Hare, do you think there's any conceivable chance that Hopkins could be considered as a reliever for transatlantic service, particularly in view of the Continental United Hub?
Yeah, Dick, that's a very good question. Just, we don't have to go far back, 2008, where Continental announced a 40% expansion at Hopkins, and then the recession kicked in. A major part of that plan was to establish Hopkins as in essence, to remove some of the traffic out of Newark and shift that traffic to Hopkins. They started out with a domestic program. The ultimate plan was to see how that would work out from an international standpoint. We've had discussions with not just Continental, but a host of other carriers to establish international service out of the airport, and we're optimistic that that's going to happen. But the most important thing we can do right now, and we're working very closely with the Greater Cleveland Partnership on this, is to shore up our hub and our other domestic carriers to make sure that we have a robust feed to support additional international service. Hopefully we find ourselves as an airport that's not viewed as a reliever to another commercial airport, but an airport that has domestic and international service based on the needs of the community that it serves.
Mr. Smith, the site plan for Hopkins shows the northernmost portion of your primary runways being removed. Those runways had been lengthened in the past to make longer runways so we can fit larger planes and reach farther destinations, in part to support the freight portion of what we do here as a region. What's changed from that? Do we not have that need anymore?
Well, the only runway that we're modifying as a part of this master plan is our 10-8 runway. That's our crosswinds runway, which is just above 6,000 feet. We just added 1,000 feet to our 6 right, 2-4 left runway. It's now about 10,000 feet runway. I think we're pretty comfortable that with that runway, we can get anywhere in the world that we need to get with today's aircraft technology. The crosswind runway certainly is not an airport, a runway that is designed or desired for long-haul traffic. It is simply that, a crosswinds runway. The 6 right, 2-4 left runway gives us the capacity we need to support the service that you're alluding to.
Director Smith, I want to congratulate you on 2 exciting plans for the future economy of Cleveland. They're critical. One question is for Hopkins. You mentioned the expansion of freight. Wouldn't it make sense to make that truly intermodal and bring rail into that freight connection as well?
Very good question. First, before I answer your question, I have to add this little note. All the stuff that you see with respect to this airport system and how we're moving forward is all a part of the work that I did. It's not my employees or anything like that. It's all the work that I've done. So I appreciate you thanking me. No, with respect to your question, which I'm now beginning to forget, that's what happened. Well, we did spend some time looking at that as a part of this master planning effort. I think what we determined was that although there's an opportunity to establish a rail connection to the airport, that is probably truly a 15, 20-year proposition. And as we develop the garage and the terminal north, we will also create a spine that will serve as the link to this to the rail connection. And so we're moving forward with that in mind in terms of actually working on a true rail connection that's down the road.
Good afternoon, Director
Good
Smith.
afternoon, Marcia.
As I travel, certainly each time I fly out and fly in, I'm less covetous of my experience in other airports now. So thank you for what has been done under your leadership. My question is about Burke, though. As we looked at the plans for Burke, I didn't hear anything about the Aviation High School. Can you share what that plan is?
Very good question. Yes, we can. We have a number of aviation-related tenants in the Burke Lakefront Airport Terminal. Believe it or not, as Commissioner Bahar would remind us, that terminal is about 118% full. We actually have a waiting list for companies that want space in Burke Lakefront Airport. A number of those tenants are flight schools and other tenants that provide educational services to flyers or prospective flyers. As we look at developing a new executive terminal at Burke Lakefront Airport, we will right-size it. It likely will not be the size of the existing terminal. And we've looked at Aviation High School as a redeveloped and significantly enhanced Aviation High School as the location for tenants that now offer flight training and other aviation-related training services. And hopefully what will come out of that from a programmatic standpoint is some partnership with perhaps the Cleveland Metropolitan School District and others to expand that program to attract more Cleveland area students into the field of aviation.
Good afternoon, Director Smith. Two
afternoon,
quick
Judge.
questions. How can RTA service to the airport be improved? I saw what you said, the intermodal hub. What's going to happen there? And also, there's some kind of landfill going on adjacent to Burke. What's being planned for that, if you can tell us?
In terms of how RTA service can be improved, we have not done a very good job, and I say we, both the airport system and the RTA, we have not done a very good job marketing that service, particularly to visitors to the region. Most visitors that come here are not aware that there's a rail or an RTA link that gets them downtown. And so Todd Payne, who's our Chief of Marketing and Air Service Development, is working with RTA to develop a marketing program to assist with that. And signage, something I didn't highlight as a part of the program, is an airport-wide signage program that will also go a long way in terms of helping people understand that there is RTA service that gets you downtown and hopefully will entice more to use the service. In terms of the other point you raised, one more point on the RTA service. Our plan here is not to change the location of the RTA link. The ground transportation center will actually be constructed on top of the existing RTA location. And so what the ground transportation center will bring is, as we consolidate all of our ground transportation options into one center, when someone comes into the area and they're looking for their options for transportation, they all will be centralized into one area, and then they'll be able to choose. RTA will be front and center as an option. Taxi will be an option. Rental cars will be an option. Our shuttle services will be an option. And so there will be a menu or a set of alternative modes of transportation that they can select from, and hopefully bringing that mass of people to a ground transportation center will increase ridership of RTA as well.
And the landfill at Burke?
The landfill at Burke, I'm assuming you're referring to the CDFs, or the confined disposal facilities at Burke. The Army Corps continues to work to dredge and to fill those sites. Those are valuable sites for Burke Lakefront Airport because the new runway that I referred to will actually be constructed on top of those landfills. Burke itself is a landfill, okay? And so the plan is, as those CDFs are filled and matured and compacted over a period of time, we'll begin to construct the new runway on top of those landfills.
Director Smith, I'm a Cleveland school teacher, and
Thank you.
thank you for saying that. But I appreciated the question from Ms. Maccabee about Aviation High School. But my question is, what opportunity do you give in working with school districts to allow young people, especially young people of color, to be able to see people like you in leadership positions? Do you have, in your busy schedule, do you have a chance to reach out to school districts and possibly create some kind of shadowing experiences for young people so that they get to see people who look like themselves in very important positions?
Yes, we have. Thanks for the question. We have a tours program that is managed by our community relations manager, where we probably offer 50 to 70 tours a year, most of those to schools. And I speak to a lot of those kids and members of the team. We speak to a lot of those kids to help them understand opportunities in the industry. This summer, and this is probably a commercial, this summer we will hire nearly 150 interns at the airport. They will be students from the Metropolitan School District as well as other surrounding school districts, and we will take every opportunity to introduce them to the field and make sure that they have an appetite for the industry as they decide on their careers. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure it means something. Okay.
I think we're done.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess that meant we were done. Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we've been listening to Ricky D. Smith, Director of Port Control for the City of Cleveland. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and this forum is now adjourned.